is our history. Buildings and people and memories and dreams. Who better to tell us than those who were there? There's so much to learn from the stories they'll share.
Living history. Living history.
Hello, this is Ted Goldsboro for a Living History segment, and today our guest is Chief Tom Hayden of the Merion Fire Company of Ardmore. We're going to be talking about the history of the Merion Fire Company, which by coincidence is 125 years this year. Formed in 1890, I believe. And we thank Chief Hayden for coming and meeting with us today. We have many images that we'll be going over and talking about being a fire person. Thanks, Tom, for being with us today.
Okay, it's an honor to be here, and it'd be an honor to talk about the 125-year history of the fire company. There's a lot of people that worked hard in those 125 years here in our community to make the Merion Fire Company what it is today.
Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of volunteers to run a fire company, doesn't it?
It does, and there has been a lot of volunteers since 1890 when our ancestors started the Merion Fire Company of Ardmore. Many
family names that you could
Yeah,
list
correct.
off.
We have lots of families that are involved in the fire company where their fathers, their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers were involved. We even have a couple of members today at the Merion Fire Company that their ancestors are in the original charter in 1890. One being the Hicks family. We have the Hicks brothers that are members today, and their father, grandfather, and great-grandfather went all the way back. And we have a female firefighter, Judy Flanagan, whose maiden name was Frankenfield, who her dad and grandfather and great-grandfather go all the way back to the original forming of the fire company in 1890. So really it's a tradition in some cases that is handed you want to say up or down in the family.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a number of members that their dads or their siblings and their dads run with the fire company today or did. We have the Powers family, the McNally family. I mentioned Judy Flanagan. We have a number of members from the Han family that are very dedicated members, along with Brooke McMullen and Mark Stillwagon, and one of our new junior members, Patty Black. His dad was a fireman one generation ago in our firehouse. So,
and Mullen?
Mick Mullen. He's our president, and he has two sons in our organization.
But wasn't there James Mullen?
Yeah, Jim Mullen was chief of our fire company back in the 40s, and he was chief for a long time, I think 16 or 18 years.
Okay.
And then
Raymond?
Jim Mullen then was I think the second fire superintendent of Lower Merion Township when they formed that job in the late 50s. And so he had that job from the 50s to the, I guess the late 70s when he retired. But he gave a lot of years of service to not only the Merion Fire Company of Ardmore, but the township itself.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have a copy of I guess a certificate of incorporation or the founding.
Yeah, our original charter.
Okay, charter.
Which the original charter was formed by these older members, or the members that wanted to start the fire company, and the date on that, if their incorporation date, was January 10th, 1890. And it just so happens, as part of our 125th celebration, that we're having a function that day, and we're trying to invite all the past firefighters that are still around or still might be alive that don't run today to come in and celebrate our 125th on the day that charter was signed. So there's some exciting things going on in the upcoming year.
Okay. And we have signatures of those early people, and that's how you knew some names.
Yeah,
I guess.
and there's a lot of famous Ardmore people on there that eventually had businesses in Ardmore, and I guess the fire company was the centerpiece of the town back then, and they were very proud of it because we were the first fire company in the entire Lower Merion Township.
Right. Sometimes people are confused when it says Merion Fire Company, but it almost is like Lower Merion Fire Company, almost.
I guess being the first fire company in Lower Merion that they named it the Merion Fire Company, and then we were located in Ardmore. And then since then, other fire companies have taken over their towns here in Lower Merion.
Like Gladwin and Narberth.
Yeah, Gladwin, Narberth, Ballackinwood,
Penwyn.
Overbrook Hills Fire Company, Belmont Hills, which was formerly West Manayunk Fire Company, and the Bryn Mawr Fire Company. And then we can't forget about the borough of Narberth because they are part of our umbrella of the Lower Merion Township Fire Department.
The Merion Fire Company's first firehouse was, can you tell about that?
Yeah, the first firehouse was located in a shed on Lancaster Avenue at the corner of Greenfield and Lancaster, and it was behind a tavern called the Red Lion Inn. And in there they had two pieces of apparatus starting in 1890, and they were horse-drawn, but they didn't have any horses. So the original firefighters thought that they could actually pull this apparatus to the fires, and maybe that would have worked right here in the Ardmore area, but their first large fire that they were called to was at the Elm Station in Narberth. So the firefighters came up and grabbed their apparatus and started down to Narberth by pulling it by hand. They made it to the Ardmore train station. The building, the barn or whatever had burnt to the ground, and then they returned and felt that they needed to come up with a better plan. The better plan was to rent and take loaner horses when there was a call from the community and hook them to their apparatus where they could pull that to the fires. And that continued to 1908 when their first motorized apparatus arrived on the scene to protect the town of Ardmore.
Okay. I think somewhere, I think it's later when we have engines, I do have a picture which we'll get to. I wanted to fill in here, finish my thoughts about the firehouse. This is a newspaper from 1939, and it's just, the reason I put it in is it shows me that the company was well organized, and you can put out your own newspaper. Shows pictures of different apparatus. So I just thought the public would be interested that you had your own newspaper in the old days.
They definitely printed a few copies of this old newspaper, and they sent it throughout the community. They were really proud of their motorized apparatus, and that's mentioned in there. And then originally, Merion Fire Company number 2 was located in Gladwin. So the Gladwin Fire Company originally, prior to 44, was a substation of Ardmore. And they were proud of that, and they put that in the newsletter, and they used it throughout the community. We have that newsletter that actually hangs in the back training room of our firehouse on the wall. And it's great to see the younger people read some of those articles that are in that newsletter.
We should mention that the Merion Fire Company has a very nice visual history, framed.
Well, we have pictures of a lot of our fires from over the years, but what we also have is in our back room, our training room, we have a picture of all the fire apparatus that we ever had, all the way back to 1890. The apparatus that was in the Red Lion Inn. So our firehouse is open to the public during the day, and they could stop by if they would like and look at the history on the wall. There's also some of the more exciting large fires that have occurred in Ardmore as part of our history that are there for the viewing of the younger members.
So it's almost like a museum, like a Merion Fire Company?
Yep.
Almost,
yeah,
okay.
We have some Autocar memorabilia also in there because the Autocar was a big part of Ardmore back then.
Then the second firehouse is on the location of today's, which is on Greenfield Avenue. And about when was this built?
That particular picture there, I think, is from the early 50s. That firehouse was originally built, they say, the early 1900s, and it was added onto as needed throughout time. I believe there was 3 very substantial renovations done to that original firehouse. That was the firehouse did not meet our needs any longer in the 90s. It was very difficult because there was a basement in there. It wouldn't withstand the weight of our newer apparatus. We didn't have the needs that we really needed, such as kitchen, air conditioning, women's room, or any of that. And the only way to conquer that was to build the new facility that we have today and to put it on the same footprint as the old firehouse, because there was really being kind of an urban area here in Ardmore, there was really no place to go. So what we had done is we partnered with the township to build the firehouse. We set up in a tent that was down on the Pico lot. Pico was down at Spring and Greenfield Avenue. Pretty permanent tent. And we ran out of there from March to December when they tore down the other firehouse, filled in that basement that was making the building weak, and built the new building. And we got back in around December of 1997.
Okay. We have a couple of minutes before we have to take a break.
Okay.
And I guess a crane is taking off the top of the bell tower.
Yep. And that bell that they took out of there to the next generation of firehouse sat out front. That bell originally was to summon the firefighters from our community to respond to calls. That bell today is outside our front door on the side, or what we call the front of the firehouse right now, but that's our original bell.
I think McShane, it says on the, I think Baltimore maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. And I love to tap it with my hand, and it gets a nice tone to it.
We ring that once a year in on New Year's to commemorate one of our firefighters who had passed in the line of duty, and we ring it for one ring for every year since he has passed, and we still meet his family at the gravesite, and it was Isaac Boyd, was the firefighter that had perished in 19...
I've got some pictures of that, so why don't we wrap up now, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Sounds good.
This is Ted Goldsboro with Living History. We're talking about the Merion Fire Company of Ardmore with Chief Tom Hayden. We'll be right back after a little break.